This episode of the Gear Podcast is sponsored by Soldano and the new X88IR rack mount preamp. The Soldano X88R was considered by many guitar players as a holy grail of rack mount tube preamps. From its inspiring Soldano tone to distinctive purple anodized panel, the X88R is one of the world's most sought-after pieces of vintage gear, used by countless professional musicians including Peter Frampton, Warren DeMartini, Michael Landau, and Steve Lukather. The new X88IR continues this legacy by preserving every ounce of Soldano's legendary tone with updated modern features tailored to meet the needs of today's professional players, including impulse responses, power amp simulation, a stereo effects loop, a headphone output, and Soldano's software editor so that you can customize every aspect of the X88IR. To learn more, visit Soldano.com, and thanks to Soldano for sponsoring this episode.
Theme song for the Gear Podcast. La 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 la. I'm getting a bit sick and tired of singing that theme song. Can I tell you the truth, mate? I'm like kind of thinking about either recording it for real or just dropping the whole thing, and maybe people can imagine it. What do you reckon?
I reckon one and done. If you record it, then we could record a piece of music to accompany it, and then we could wrap up season 3 of the Gear Podcast, and season 4 would be just racing out of the gate.
Yeah.
New and improved, way higher production value, better content, more interesting hosts. You know, it'd just be a step up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll put a pin in that and we'll return to it. How you feeling, mate? What's going on?
Pretty bloody lovely, mate. Just did a little bit of teaching today.
Nice.
Had a few cool pieces of gear coming in. Had a frantic week coming up because we're moving, but you know, you get that on the big jobs,
mate.
And got a new guitar.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
It's So
beastly.
this is the correct type of instrument to have. You know what happened, mate? We were talking about Whitesnake the other week, and I've had in the back of my head that I want to get something that says the big G on it, an actual black Les Paul custom.
I mean, you do already have how many Les Pauls?
You know,
at least 3.
There's quite a few.
Anyway, you don't have a black one, so.
Just when I thought I was out, they keep dragging me back in. But buddy of ours, Kush Mix Sounds, lists on Marketplace a black Les Paul custom. And I know it's a good guitar because I played it when he first bought it, and he's been gigging it for, the last decade. And yeah, the price was sort of too good to pass up, because if you go on Reverb right now, Troy, and you looked up Les Paul custom, you're not getting anything for less than like 6,000 or 7,000 Australian dollars. And that'll be like headstock repair, non-original, all that kind of stuff. So this hasn't had any repairs. And a plus for me is like the hardware and the pickups have been changed. I'm not super into the old 498 pickups.
What's in it, pickup-wise?
So he put burst buckers in it. I think it's just a 1 and a 2, but it sounds really good. So I've got a Dirty Fingers in my Greco, which, you know, sounds awesome, does the Sykes thing. But yeah, this is super gnarly sounding. I really like it. I'm going to finish a video later today about the guitar, but I took some stems from Follow the Leader and played the riff on the black PRS and then on this. And yeah, it's really cool. It's like very bitey sounding and open. And it's quite, it's in drop C at the moment, but it's quite loud unplugged. The one thing, and I think that a lot of people probably erred on, was that it's like, it's 10.8 pounds, so pretty close to 5 kilograms, which is a lot. Yep. I know a lot of people complain about Les Pauls being heavy. It's heavy. It's not quite as heavy as the white custom I've got, though.
That white custom's heavy, man. Because my standard is pretty heavy, so my standard I think's similar. It's probably a similar weight to that, because I reckon my standard was similar weight to your white custom.
Yeah. They're chonkers.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a 1990, but it's awesome, man. Like, it just, you know, we've mentioned it before. Sort of nothing really sounds. When you want a Les Paul, sometimes you just have to get a Les Paul, right? It's my standard sounds quite like, I guess, more like vintage 50s. It's quite a mellow sounding guitar compared to this. So so the Whitesnake tribute gig that we have coming up,
authentic,
it's going to be legit.
Fuck, what well, I've got to go buy that Knights one now. So
exactly, go full Viv.
I did have a look and see if there were, not Nice One, Vandenberg. I did try and see if any were available, and I didn't realize they reissued them, but I'm not sure if I want to go buy a new one. We'll see.
I mean, what's the damage on a new PV Vandenberg? And PV are making them, right?
No, I think it's Kramer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's. Pretty sure.
So I think it's a Vandenberg was a PV.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, crazy that they're back. I mean, the pink ones look pretty cool. They've got that interesting cutaway thing going on. Yep. I wonder what the list price is. Oh yeah, only $3,000 US.
Yeah,
sweet.
Easy.
Where is Adrian Vandenberg in the pantheon of Whitesnake guitar players for you?
Not at the top of the list, if I'm being honest. But he was there, so that's cool.
Because
he was there at an important time.
You got Sykes and Aldrich at the top. Like they're when I think of Whitesnake, for me, like, and I think when I was getting into Whitesnake, Doug and Reb were playing at the same time.
Yeah,
and then you got like Moody Marsden, because I like the old Whitesnake as well. They're like, that's the they're in the top tier.
Who was post Vandenberg? Because he was with Coverdale like through the 90s, at least for a part of the early 90s. He did that Restless Heart album, I think.
Yeah, which I think for me with Vandenberg, I expected him to be like the Shred King, and when I finally heard it, I was like, oh, this is quite bluesy and like different. So I like him in Whitesnake more than I like Steve Vai, which ain't saying much, as we all know. As much as I love Steve in Whitesnake is just not my bag.
It's not mine too. Like I have been revisiting it a little bit, and it's okay, but it's not. Like, some of it's grown on me, but yeah, I'm still not super sold on it.
Look, you know what Adrian Vandenberg is to Whitesnake? He's what Craig Goldie is to Dio.
Okay. I get
right? You. Like Craig Goldie, he's the sort of player where people go, I could do that gig. No, you couldn't. Like, you actually couldn't. But when you're up against, like, Viv and Doug Aldrich and that, like, caliber of, like, face-melting rock guitar player.
Yep.
I think the thing that I like, my thing is, if you're going to play Whitesnake or you're going to play Dio, you got to have that outrageous vibrato, which I think guys like Vandenberg and Goldie don't really have. It's more of a subtle thing.
Yeah.
I do like the band Vandenberg as its own thing. I think that's
never listened to
his
Vandenberg.
best playing. It's cool. It's like AOR stuff.
Okay.
But they've got some cool stuff. And when you hear it, you're like, oh, cool. That's what you were doing with Whitesnake. So, yeah.
Just quickly, have you listened to Whitesnake's The Rock album, the 2020 remix?
For about 10 minutes, maybe. Yeah.
I've been listening to this remix album, and it's pretty cool. But some of the remixes, like, there's way less reverb and effects on Hero Go Again solo. It's kind of like just weird to hear it sound dry, and I don't know, it's maybe a little bit, not that I thought it was like the most impressive solo, but it's like a little bit less impressive again.
It's just a guitar solo at the end of the day when it doesn't have the source.
Yeah, pretty much. It's interesting though, like it still sounds good, like it sounds modern, for better or worse, it sounds modern. Yeah, I also forgot, like, some of the like later Whitesnake stuff, the like 2000 stuff is pretty good. Like that Good to Be Bad album is pretty good.
The one after that,
Forevermore.
The song Forevermore rips. Like,
really cool song.
So good. It's funny though, because I went through this huge Doug Aldrich phase, as we all know. The way I play guitar is just like C- Doug, basically. Mm-hmm. And I went and I found them on eBay, all the Burning Rain albums from the 90s.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And he was in a band, after he was in Lion, he was in a band with the singer from Lion called Bad Moon Rising, and they had 3 albums. Mm-hmm. So I've got that, like, box set kicking around somewhere. And, yeah, a lot of especially the Burning Rain stuff, you're just like, that's what the Doug era Whitesnake sounds like. He's just, like, he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Just with Coverdale on vocals. So, yeah, that song Forevermore, though, that is... And, like, the guitar sound on it is, there's, like, so much gain, it's that, like, very, like...
It's Cameron, right? Cameron Ocean mod?
Yeah, I think so, but it's got that, like, sticky, chewy... That's what I think of when someone says the Brown sound. Like, it's got that molasses kind of distortion about it.
Yeah, I know you mean by sticky. It feels like there's just so many notes happening, and it's almost incomprehensible in terms of like, not that it's like technical, but I can't quite understand what's happening. Like the flurry of notes. So whether or not that's the tone or the way he's playing, I don't know. It's probably both, but it is pretty cool.
Because he looks like he should be so bad at guitar, but he's so good.
He like the way he plays,
less full around the knees.
Yeah,
the straight fingers thing.
It's like the coolest. I think he looks the coolest when he's shredding solos. He had like the way
he's the coolest shredder.
Yeah,
he's the anti-Petrucci.
Yeah,
like.
I still think Nuno's up there with the coolest shredder as well. But I think maybe just anyone that's guitar is below their waist is, they qualify.
Yeah, Nuno and Doug. But, he does have that whole, like, he's playing it.
Yep.
And he's got the big, just mental vibrato. Because, look, John Sykes, if you see videos of him playing, he's kind of got his guitar at a sensible height.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what his... Hey, I messaged you as well, just so everyone is aware, because I saw a picture of Blue Murder from back in the day, and like they all looks like they were about the same height. And I messaged you to say, like, where's John? I never thought Carmen Appice was that tall. Like he strikes me as a guy who's probably like 5'6", and then Sykes looked almost a little shorter in this picture. So I'm like, man, is Sykes like secretly short?
I mean, if anyone was going to be secretly short, it's probably going to be him.
Well,
but
we do know.
Then again, he's probably like 6 foot.
We should ask Mike Nielsen because he worked with him. So, and Nielsen's a tall man, so we could say Nielsen. Like where was he? Like Sykes plays like, he plays like that. What's his name? Jared James Nichols. Is that the dude who's like 6'5" and likes wrestling and is massive? That's the way Sykes plays. And that's how big I thought he was. But maybe that's not true.
I remember you messaging me a while ago and you're like, oi, Jared James Nichols, wrestling. Like that was the sentence. And I was like, there you go. Yeah. Like it all makes sense.
I think I saw him wearing an NWO shirt or something. It's like, there you go. You just have to show yourself, and we should get him. Like every time we talk about a guitar player, let's get him on the show. We'll have a chat to him.
I would love that. I reckon that would be an incredibly fun hang. He's a guy you could invite to a barbecue and have a good time.
Absolutely. He'd be about our age as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he the Chud's barbecue of rock guitar?
Yeah, he's not the Googer of rock guitar, so it must be the Chud's barbecue. Shout out to Jay for this t-shirt as well. I love the shirt.
That's awesome.
I found it. I didn't realize he gave it to me. It was in a box, and I was like, oh man, this is wicked. He gave me a box when I had COVID last year. He dropped it off at my doorstep, and in it he'd ordered the Chud's black pepper, like the 16 mesh black pepper.
Awesome.
And left that on my doorstep, and this shirt was in there. We're like, man, that's so kind of you. So anyway, what were you going to say?
Oh, I can't remember. Maybe that just like one day I'll learn to love rock music the way I love barbecue, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
With your new house, you can do whatever you want. Like you could get an offset. You're going to get an offset? Do it.
Mate, I could turn that shed into a smoking room.
Yeah. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. So anyway, onto the gear side. Well, we talked about your Les Paul, so that's really cool. I was going to say, to quickly finish that off, like it's funny that are you more of a custom Les Paul custom man or a Les Paul standard? You're more into customs, aren't you?
More into customs, yeah.
I'm more into standards. Like I've not ever played a custom that I've been like, oh, this is the guitar for me. There's just something. Yeah. It's maybe a little sharper around the back where the binding is. I'm not sure.
Especially that back binding is a bit digs into your ribs a little bit. So it doesn't. Yeah, there's definitely that.
Yeah, and I never felt as comfortable with that, and it just felt like getting higher up the neck too, like past the 15th fret. It feels different.
Where the binding is on the heel is a little bit uncomfortable. So I think that would, if I had to pick one, that would probably be it. But the other thing which came across my desk, which is really cool, and I got a video coming with it, is this. Now, it's a curious looking device, isn't it?
I can't really tell what it is, to be honest.
It's a volume pedal.
Oh, okay.
But instead of a wah style housing, it's like this is...
Oh, right. It's like a big knob sort of thing.
So, yeah, it's got a big knob. But it's like, when you hold something that's really well made,
yep,
and you're just like, oh, so yeah, and you got a little switch to choose between linear and normal taper. But yeah, Black Mountain Picks make this. This is I didn't know what to think of it, and then I used it for about 2 minutes, and I was like, it's actually pretty sick. Like if you want to use it for volume roll off and do those kind of things. And also you can like do that and do tremolo with it, and it actually sounds pretty good.
So doing like swells and stuff, is that also, does that feel, it would feel different, but would you, like doing the volume roll down is one thing, but like trying to swell in on a chord with a lot of effects, like I don't know how that would go.
It's pretty nice, yeah. Okay. It's one of those things where I was like, well, this will either be the worst thing I've reviewed all year or one of the best things, and it's sort of in the latter. So yeah, it's just different, man. It's like, it's kind of reinventing the wheel, but you're like, what's the point? And then you're like, oh, actually, no, that's pretty cool. Because I've seen similar ideas where it's like basically a pot that you roll, but they're a lot smaller and they're kind of awkward and hard to, I don't know. They feel like they actually spent some time designing it and making it good. So yeah, I got a video that I'm going to shoot later today with it and do some things. But yeah, I mean, you can do some fun. I'm just going to like put it on my board, I think, for the next couple of gigs and use it and see how that goes. But yeah, I'm pretty into it.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
They sent these pics as well, which are like, remember the big stubbies?
Oh yeah.
It's like a handmade big stubby, but it's got like some cork or something in there to actually grip. So yeah, that's very cool.
I've got one around here because the Chaos Divine guys like those picks, and I just I can't manage it. It's just so uncomfortable to me. But anyway, what do I know? It's just, I gave them real picks, the 88s, the green ones.
Yeah,
and
the greenies.
Yeah, they hated that. But it sounds different for like chug.
It sounds different. It's the one.
If you want to be polite.
If you're going to record rock guitar.
Yeah, if you're going to be polite and you want the note to have a softer character to it, more balance, I get that. That's different. And that's where those picks are great. But if you want to go, zhang, 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 then I think you need a bit more sharpness on there.
And what's the point in living if you're not going to go zhang, 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 zhang?
Mate, absolutely.
Unless... What else has come across your desk, mate?
In the last week, I've sort of rebuilt this pedal board actually, my studio board. It's been really busy, man. Like just generally a lot of sessions on, a few new clients, a few returning clients, and hopefully getting a few projects off before Christmas time, which is fast approaching. In fact,
it's just around the corner.
Well, I'm off to South Australia to visit family in about a month as well. So there's quite a lot to do before then. And then it will be Christmas after that. So anyway, over the last few days, I've had just a little bit of time to sneak into the studio, finish a few projects, but also just play a little bit of guitar. So that was nice. But the studio pedal board that I have, which might be too hard to, well, no, you can sort of see it here. Actually, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
This is the like pedal board that's on the rolling stand because that is convenient. It's always in a bit of a state because I'll use certain pedals for like boosting in front of a heavy amp or something like that. So I'd built it at one point and it was pretty neat and tidy, and then just kept ripping pedals and then it became basically non-functional because of the amount of fucking around that I did with it. I had a chance to come in on Saturday and I was just doing some playing. And I had bought a new pedal, which is, you can sort of see it here. It's the Diamond Compressor.
The compressor.
Yeah. And I'll talk about that in a second because I really like it, but I was playing, we were talking before, I did this Melbourne Cup gig last week, which it shouldn't be that exciting, but I just don't get a lot of chance to play like,
rock guitar.
Rock gigs, but just gigs with amps and with bands. Like a lot of times I'm doing two gigs a week, 3 gigs a week, but it's just a duo and me with a drum machine and looping pedals and stuff, and that's fine. But yeah, getting to play with other musicians is a lot more a lot of fun sometimes. So I've got a board set up for that, which I put together this year for this exact purpose, where it works for playing those sort of songs. And on it, I had the little Mua clone of the Diamond Compressor.
Yes.
And that sounds so good. It's the perfect compressor for me. So when this one came up last week, I went and picked it up. And I had a chance to play some guitar on Saturday with it. So put this board together, chucked a couple of pedals on there. I've got some stuff on there that's probably familiar to you, Uncle Leon, because you may or may not have left some things for me to try out. Yep. If you look too closely, you'll probably want it back and want to, move it on, perhaps. We'll see. But it was really cool. And so playing through that compressor, I've been using the TD-LX module for Synergy as my like clean basis. So just running that has been like really fun. I've got that orange cabinet that you can sort of see behind me all hooked up as well. So yeah, it was just really cool. So anyway, like playing with this Mooer thing last week, it's just like the Mooer Diamond compressor clone through a Fender Deluxe. I used your Deluxe for this gig. It just is perfect. It's like the perfect sound. It's everything I always wanted out of a clean sound. And this is the same. So have you managed to play either of them before, or like that sort of compressor?
No, I really should.
I think it's an opto compressor, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So it's just like, if other people have played it, I'm not sure. It's like, it's not that complicated. It's got a compressor knob on it, an EQ knob on it, and a volume knob. I think the EQ just adds a bit of top end, I believe. But yeah, I find I've had a few compressor pedals over the journey. So most recently, I've got it right here, the Walrus Deep 6, which this is going to go up for sale. This is a FET style. I got this after you got your Origin effects, 1176 thing.
Similar thing.
Yeah, 1176 studio compressor, which I do have a bunch of those, is amazing, and I love that. And your Origin thing sounded amazing, and I loved that. So I thought I'll go get a FET compressor, and it will make me equally as excited. This was cool in some things. For single note stuff, I loved it. But if I just play a big chord, it was just too like sucky and grabby. Yeah. And I really didn't like it. Same as this guy, the CS3. And I've got a CS2 as well. But
the Kip Winger approved CS3.
Yeah, and I got onto this because, you did the Kip Winger support.
And you sang Miles Away with him.
I did. I jumped up and sang with him. And all he had was like a CS3 that his acoustic was plugged into, and that was his like secret sound, and it sounded amazing.
All knobs on full.
Yeah, his acoustic guitar sound was so good that I went out and bought one like the next available opportunity. But for electric guitar stuff, it just doesn't really do it for me. It's the same deal. It's like kind of grabby, and it shapes the transient in a way that I don't like for like chords. Like note melodies and like adding a bit more pluckiness on there is kind of cool. I've got a orange squeeze pedal too, like a clone of that, which is also really cool for like the twanginess that it adds. But this thing, it's just like, I remember like shout buddy Scott. He's had one of these on his board for like 10 years, and I remember hearing about them about 10 years ago, and people were saying, you just leave them on, it sounds great. But you kind of can. Like, it just... What it does when I play a G chord, like a clean G chord, is all of a sudden it doesn't go... boom, like the big, like, low-end blast that comes out. It just is clear. The transient doesn't seem like it gets really pokey, and it doesn't, like, disappear completely. It's just, like, everything just feels balanced. I've never really had that with another compressor before. So, yeah, it's... I had it with the Mooer one, but that's on my movable board, and I didn't have one here, and I need one here, so hence I've done it. So that's my little rant on the Diamond compressor. Because in the Axe, are you using much compression when you're gigging or setting up any sounds?
It's interesting, right? So I was doing the multi-band dynamic EQ trick for a while, which I just don't bother with anymore. The one time, so for the gig we're talking about, which I've done before, I normally just use in the Axe, there's the studio, they have a studio feed forward and a studio feedback compressor, and a sustainer version, so like an expander version of them as well, which is cool. But yeah, the studio feedback compressor I quite like, because you get like a little bit of that, like almost on really fast attack times, you get a little bit of distortion, which is kind of cool. Gives you like just a little bit with like a Strat neck pickup or something. So yeah, that's cool, but that's more for, doing the funk thing where it's very percussive and slappy. The feed forward compressor I really like because it's pretty transparent. It's sort of just a more better kind of thing. But yeah, I feel myself circling the drain now and being like, I've got to get back into compressors and things. On the super slick 80s thing, obviously, heaps. Yep. And like if something really squishy is cool. But yeah, I'm really curious about this Diamond compressor now.
Well, you've got this is not the same sort of compressor, but you've got the 160A, correct? The rack.
Yes. Yep.
How are you running that?
That's a VCA.
That's a VCA. Were you running that in an effects loop, like post amp sort of
Yeah, basically. So I did Nielsen did a video with the distressor on clean and like edge of breakup Voxy style sounds, which I thought sounded amazing. Like just the way, like he was just using it for a touch. It's a really great video. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I know the distress is a different thing, but yeah, basically using it for like, I guess the Landau Lukather thing where they were kind of using it almost for a little just bit of squish because they were probably running rack preamps into solid state power amps. But on the clean sound, like going clean preamp into a compressor is a very, very cool sound. Or like Boogie Studio Pre into the 160A into Wet Effects direct is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I was going to say the 160, I've used it on, not as part of an amp rig, so on as an insert if I'm mixing, and that's kind of cool. I've got plug-in versions too that I might use that for. I actually use the Distressor plugin quite a bit for that similar sort of thing. And I really like that just because it's very versatile in terms of dialing in its attack and release. The weird thing about compression too, compressor pedals versus studio, is the way the attack knob works.
Yes, like it's often backwards, right?
Well, kind of, yeah. Because like I'm a bit on when you set the attack knob on most compressor, like in studio land, it goes from like the fastest attack time to the slowest attack time. So as you turn it up, it's not like, oh, I'm adding more attack. It's just, well, the attack time gets slower because it goes from like, let's just say 1 millisecond to 30 milliseconds or something. So kind of working out how that is approached in pedals was kind of weird. Like, as I went backwards, well, from my perspective, went backwards on that. Same as like on compressor pedals, you'll have like what is it called? Sustain. Yeah, sustain and all of these things. So I'm not 100% certain what that refers to. If that's, I've seen some things mentioned that's like a ratio control or it's a ratio / a threshold. So it's a weird thing because in studio like using compressors in studio land, when I was a student, this is going on almost 20 years ago, I was told like, just be really careful about compression because you can really fuck up your sounds, right? So I took that to heart. I didn't really mess with compressors for like the first 12 months until my second year, which is maybe very stupid in some ways, but I tried to get other aspects down and then understand dynamic range. And it's a thing where it takes like a long time to get it, and I think I'm getting it now after about 20 years. It's really easy to overdo it. It's really easy to like enjoy the positive artifacts, which might be like, if you set up like a compressor to add more attack to a snare drum so it smacks more, like that's cool. But then you can also do that over the top in a way that lifts all the ambience in the drum kit and makes your drum recordings very difficult to deal with. Or it can, there's just like a lot of side effects that you have to be aware of, and it's easy to make stuff sound kind of bad or sound too choked or whatever. With guitar, like in some ways, like it's just, you can just turn the knob. Like I remember talking to a friend of ours, you were talking to Luke Gallagher about this, about how he uses the compressor pedal for the country stuff. And was it sustain was basically all the way up or something, he said?
He just cranked it and it sounded like Telecaster, that Vox. And I was like, oh.
And that makes sense.
That's that sound.
If you're doing that sort of like more, I want to say plucky, but that may or may not be accurate. But yeah, more squishy sort of stuff. It really works for that, but you can't necessarily use that on everything that you do. It's like in that way, like if I played like the G chord, like I said, it just goes and like lifts up again.
Yep.
Because there's so much sound coming out of a big 6 string strum sound, it just overloads the compressor. And that's right. You get compression, but it's too much. So anyway, I'm rambling, I'm ranting a bit.
But compression is like a super important effect for popular recorded music, not just guitar.
Yeah.
But, rock drums would not be rock drums without compression, right?
But I think I worked it out for that though, at least the way I like to work. But it's weird on guitar, man. Like I think it's a strange thing to get it. And I'm sort of starting to get it now, but...
Remember when we started playing together, I had a Keeley 4-knob comp?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and I was just using it as a boost, just because I liked the way it just kind of enhanced the sound of the guitar.
Yeah.
But I also I sold that years and years ago. That was the first thing I ever bought off eBay.
Really?
Yep. And that would have been 17 years ago because my username still has 19 in there because I was 19 years old. When I finally linked my bank account to eBay, it was like, wow, this is amazing. I can buy stuff now.
I remember that.
And
I used to buy.
Yeah, that was the first thing I bought.
I remember buying stuff on eBay and going into the bank to make the deposits. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, man, me too.
I think I think for us, or me, at least for me, I didn't have a credit card till I was a little bit older than that.
Yeah.
But also being so wary of being scammed on the internet, like I was more afraid of that in ways that now are reasonably, like I can identify as being reasonably safe. There's a lot of PayPal and stuff. I was talking to a younger person actually about this last week because they were worried about buying something on eBay and getting scammed and this and that and the other. And I'm like, man, if you're doing it through PayPal, provided it comes in the designated time, you'll probably be reasonably safe. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, on the to finish up on the compression thing, I'm kind of working it out. I'm kind of understanding how I like to use it. I think it's just like if you approach it too academically, which is probably what I've done.
Yeah,
it's tricky to know how to do it because, man, when I'm doing studio stuff, it really is like you can move stuff by very small amounts and drastically alter the sound. You have to be more conscious of that. Whereas, you know what guitar players are like, and EQ is a good example of that. It's like mids down or mids up. It's like you don't do that in studio. You shift stuff by a couple dB and see how it sounds. So,
or the classic, like I figured out my sound, guys. I've got a 31 band PA EQ in my guitar amp, and I'm pulling out a massive amount here and boosting a little bit here. It's like just dial your amp in slightly differently and you'll be fine. I remember having that realization when I was using the BBE in my rig.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, it's taking stuff out that I'm then just putting back in. So if I just don't put the thing in and I just take the BBE out.
Yep. It's funny with those because they were, or at least when we were looking at rack stuff like 20 years ago, everyone was talking about how great the BBE was, but referencing stuff from the 80s, and it's like, oh, it's weird that no one uses these BBEs anymore. I wonder why that is. They're so great. And then you kind of
probably just because Wagner had one somewhere in his ridiculous signal chain, for something maybe at some point. So that's a whole, let's not go there down the BBE rabbit hole. It's
let's get Michael Wagner on the show.
Can't Wags talk about it. Because remember BBE came out with a bunch of guitar pedals, but they had a Sonic Maximizer pedal, but they also had like a Tube Screamer and a few other bits and pieces. They had that wah pedal that no one ever rehoused and called the Vertex wah. And
I don't know anything about that. That's weird.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. But anyway, the Diamond Compressor, man, I'm into it, very into it. I've got a session in about 15, 20 minutes too, which if there's clean sounds on it, then that compressor will come in handy. So
that's exciting.
It's very exciting.
That's exciting.
And actually, just quickly on that, this project that I'm doing at the moment is predominantly Synergy. Like I'm using, I'm using the VHT Pitbull as well for one guitar sound because I only bought it recently and I want to use it. But currently, I'm using your Salvation Mod Shiva module.
Cool.
Because the guitar player really, really likes that. TDLX for some sections, the Ecstasy module for some other sections. It's really cool because I've used it. I've been using it for however long, but usually in the amp rack is kind of like the main thing, and I'm supplementing it with the other sounds. Whereas this way, it's almost like the opposite way around. It's been really cool, man. Like I've talked on this a lot, and I've had so many people come through the studio that I explain the Synergy stuff to, and people kind of leave going like, "Wow, like this is really interesting." It. So yeah, there's been a few moments where I think people are kind of coming around. At least my clients are coming around to the idea of it. But it just sounds great.
Single-handedly bringing it back.
Mate, it's just what I'm here to do. So listen up, Synergy. I'm here for you. I'm the reason that you're shipping modules to Perth, Western Australia. Doing my part.
And do you feel like now you know how to get a clean guitar sound that sounds good in a recording? Because remember when we famously had that old Twin here, I think when we were doing Ragdoll here today, we wanted to get a clean sound and we just didn't know what was up.
Yeah, I can't actually remember the Twin. Did we have a Twin?
I think it was Peter's Twin, maybe.
There
was a Fender amp.
There was definitely.
I just remember we didn't know what was up with it, and we didn't know how to dial it in. We use the DSL clean channel though a lot, right?
I still think that DSL is great for clean, and the DSL is a great amp. It's a very versatile and underrated amp. But I feel like in general, I understand. Well, having had to play clean electric guitar a lot over the last couple of years, I understand what it is that it's supposed to sound like, or how it can sound. How I can eliminate the things about it that I didn't like the spikiness, And I've said this before, like on here and to you, like using some sort of distortion, even if it's just very minor, to lop off the little spiky bits.
Yeah, right.
And I've been really liking the Brown Protein for that, like the Blues Breaker side. And I also use, like in the HX Stomp, I use the King of Tone or the Prince of Tone. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, nice.
The clone, which is effectively like similar sort of a thing. So that just gives me that like control, and the compressor gives me control in a different way as well. So it's just, I think like when I was playing the other day, I've got like a bunch of effects pedals. I'm like, let's just like have some fun with this. So if you're putting lots of delay on, you're putting lots of like reverb on, the clipping it sort of way using the pedal is maybe not the best approach. It just makes it sound a little bit too murky. Whereas, that sort of the compressor thing
interesting.
Made a little bit more sense. But also, like, if you start to compress the stuff too much, you bring up the noise floor and everything gets a bit washy in that way. So, man, I'm learning. It's just, there's more to life than just distorted heavy metal guitars, unfortunately. And it's there's a lot of, like, 14-year-olds out there who listen to I don't know, John Mayer more than I do, and that can probably get a better clean sound. But I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
You know what? I had this wild idea the other day, and I'll just throw it out live on the podcast. You know what would be fun to remix or re-record the guitars for would be self-censored.
Yeah, man.
Because I feel like neither of us really knew how to get that like Edge-style rhythmic delay thing. And that's a song that really got me into that.
Yeah.
And the other one would obviously be like, it'd be fun to do a video of and use like, here's the concept, right? You do a video on like, I don't know, effects pedals or rack stuff or amps or something, and we just like redo the guitars for a song, but then like make the final mix available so that people can hear how much or how little of a difference it makes when you're actually using something. Like do a video on delays or reverbs or rack stuff. That would be fun.
Yeah, interestingly enough too, and hopefully everyone that's listening is cool with us planning stuff out. But I probably need to talk to you about some filming stuff again for me, because I'm going to, because I kind of need to, film some YouTube instructional content for just general audio stuff. And I'm going to need to do that before the start of next year. So I have some things to do, but that actually would what you're talking about would also tie in quite neatly to that if we can put some things together. I feel like
we could just make it a big Gear Podcast episode of like, hey, here's the song, and then we'll splice together a bunch of stuff like what we're doing.
Yep.
We can do some explaining, and then, just people who watch the podcast can download the song and have an exclusive mix.
Do a live stream too, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like,
here we go. We're full of amazing ideas at this time of the day.
Christmas is just around the corner, mate. So,
mate, exactly.
Actually, what we should do is, so this is just getting silly now, but so Christmas is on the 25th. We've got that gig, the Whitesnake gig, on the 27th.
Yep.
So we're just kind of primed for this time in our lives again where we just hang out quite a bunch in person.
Yep.
So for those of you that are unaware, which is basically everyone listening, there was a period, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where like I would go around to Leon's house at 11 o'clock in the morning and we would just do nothing, talk about guitar until about 1 o'clock in the morning. So what is that? Like 14 hours, just go eat some curry or go to a guitar shop. But the weird thing was, like, we used to do this thing where I reckon I would do that with you for about 2 weeks. Like, not every day, but quite a lot for 2 weeks.
Quite a lot.
That I wouldn't see you again for like in person for like 3 months. Do you remember that? Like, there would just be these like pockets when there was just like a lot of just hanging out, talking about guitar. Not just because we were recording, just outside of that too. So maybe we're primed for another one of those where it's like, right, Leon, we got to learn these Whitesnake songs. We've got to get this.
Why do that when you can remix Ragdoll songs?
Exactly. But at least if we can do some stuff around Christmas time, because I have a little bit more time around then, that might be quite fun. So, yeah.
We're saying this live so that our listeners can hold us to it.
Yep.
Right? That's the point. Now, mate, I know you got to go, but do you have any closing thoughts, or what do you got on over the rest of the week? What's coming up? What are you lusting for gear-wise?
What I'm lusting for gear-wise, I'm very close to pulling the trigger on this, is there is another Brown Audio Protein pedal for sale, and it's pink. And
it's got to happen.
Yeah, it's just, man, I've been spending a lot of money on guitar stuff, and I probably need to just chill out a little bit. But I've got this gig board, and I've got this studio board, and the thing is, I could take a pedal off one and put it on the other. But whenever I do that, nothing ends up being neat and tidy and nothing ends up working. So, like, even though it comes at great expense, it is better to keep it separate. And I've worked out why I like that Protein pedal so much, like what it does. And that's a thing and a sound that I don't quite have otherwise in pedal format. So I was actually going to do a little bit more experimenting, like maybe see if there's a Duke of Tone pedal or something, like just another Blues Breaker style thing that would work.
Yeah, right.
But that Brown is pink, so probably just need to grab that. But in terms of other gear and stuff, man, like it's just, it's Christmas it's my birthday next week as well, so that's exciting.
Hey.
And, I'll see if no one's going to buy me any guitar-related equipment. That's okay.
Well, if people would like to send Troy some birthday wishes, or I don't know, send him some stuff or buy him a coffee, just weigh in the comment section below. And also, I will mention this so I can hold myself to it over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to do a rack build with the X88 and the Eventide and the TC. Like, it's going to be, the rack of my dreams.
Nice.
So I'll put some videos up about that.
Are you putting a mixer in there as well?
Well, either a mixer or I'll use the Switchblade to do all the mixing.
Oh,
so
yeah, cool.
That's because it's a matrix switcher and a mixer kind of thing. So, yeah, I'll have to have a bit of a play around with that kind of thing.
Can we talk about that next week? Can we put that on the agenda for the next episode? Like,
done.
I want to go through what your thought process is, what your intention is for the rack, apart from it just being fun and cool. How can you use it? What are you going to use it for? What do you need it to do? What would you like it to do? And that would be very fun. I'd like to do that.
All right, we should do it. And we should also thank our sponsor for today, Soldano, and the X88, which I just mentioned. There'll be some more videos coming up with that. I'll put a link to that in the video description. Absolute legendary for them for sponsoring this podcast and letting us talk about guitar gear. If you've got requests for up-and-coming videos or anything, let us know in the comments below. Be sure to tell your mates about the podcast and subscribe. And, until next time, shackers.
Adios, amigos.